And a very good afternoon to you. How are you? It's just gone midday on Friday, the 27th of February, 2026. Yes, we're hurtling towards the end of the second month of the year. Good heavens, how outrageous. How did that happen so quickly? It always seems to be the case that January just goes a bit sluggish and then February, boom, is over within a matter of seconds. Any odd way. Before we run out of time on this show, because let's be honest, time is moving that quickly, let's say a very good afternoon to the marvellous and sensational stage critic extraordinaire, Mr. Jonathan Baz. Hello, Jonathan.
Good afternoon, Phil. Great to see you. And it's a treat to be with you. So I have a bumper-packed list of shows to talk about today. And we're going to go through them in ascending order. So starting with perhaps the least satisfying and finishing with the most. With no further ado, and please feel free to ask whatever you may want to of my thoughts or opinions on these various productions. But
it's very kind. You know I will do that anyway, but thank you.
Indeed. I'm going to start at the very beginning. It's the very best place to start. A show that I saw this week, it opened last week and it's only on for a very short run, I think 10, 11 days or so. And mercifully, thank heavens for that, because it's awful. It happens to be extremely well performed. It is a one-woman show played by Jessica Martin, who I believe is a friend of Russ. She is a wonderfully gifted actress. And unfortunately, she is wasted in this piece. The show is called Grinder Mom. And it is all about a mother, a married Mormon mother. I'm glad I managed to get that out. A married Mormon mother,
well done,
who discovers that her son is gay and on Grindr. And and for those who don't know, Grindr is a dating app predominantly used, so I understand, by gay men. And she assumes from time to time a false identity to dip into this world of Grindr. It could have been an amusing piece of theatre. I found it lurching from crass, bigoted cliche, from one crass, bigoted cliche to the next. Jessica Martin, I have to say, is fantastic. She convinces you that she is a mother of the right age and of the right stance to be having a son of such an age who's going through this. But I have to say the script is just dire, and it's unless you're friends or family of the cast and crew, I'd probably suggest it's one to avoid. But
Kimi Lashmar likes Jessica Martin, so at least that's a start.
Jessica Martin is fantastic. There is no doubt about it. She is a brilliant performer. She commands this 80 minutes very, very well. But as I say, I found it tedious in the extreme. And
you know how there are some productions though where there's always like a hidden message or a point to it or something along those lines. What did you take away as the point of this? Because I took away to the synopsis, I don't get it. I don't understand why.
I took away the point of it is the playwright, who is a bloke. I mean, interestingly, if it had been an autobiography of a mother's painful journey,
I think you could understand that, right?
That would, but it's not. It's been written by a bloke who, when I googled him, has written absolute pornographic filth in other productions that he's written, none of which appealed to me. I think it's aiming at an audience that's going to appreciate really unsubtle garbage. I remember before Christmas going to see a pantomime, a gay panto at the Charing Cross Theatre, the name of which escapes me. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It was as camp as Christmas. Well, it was Christmas. The humor was filthy. The humor was well written. The acting was immaculate, as is Jessica's. And it just worked. This is just shallow, trite, lazy. Well, no, it's not entirely lazy writing. The guy has given a construct. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end that is particularly cliched and sadly very predictable. So yeah, that's sort of it, really. I haven't got any more to say about it.
Well, in that case, I suggest we move on and hope that things
So
can only get better.
Things are going to get better. Next up is The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. You may know the book, you may know the movie.
I'm aware of it. I want to see it, but I haven't got around to it yet.
I would temper your enthusiasm.
Oh no.
Sorry.
Very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as I said in my review, the Proclaimers got the same message across in 3 minutes with "I'm going to be 500 miles"
right.
many years ago. It's kind of the same message. You know, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry is Harold Fry played brilliantly. I have to say, yet again, the acting on stage is superb. Mark Addy plays Harold Fry, who receives this letter from a dying former work colleague. She's on her deathbed with terminal cancer, and he sets out to walk the length and breadth of the country from Cornwall, I think he lives up to Berwick upon Tweed, to visit his friend. And along the way, there's this journey. He meets assorted people. He gets followed by a ragtag bunch, as I described in my review, of crusties who are waving all sorts of banners and supporting Harold, etc., etc. It may well have been a charming novel, which I haven't read, and possibly a film with Jim Broadbent, which also I haven't seen. But as a musical, where the songs and the music and lyrics are by Passenger, who, showing my lack of depth of knowledge, I really hadn't heard of before this show. Passenger was a band
until now.
Yeah, quite. Passenger was a band. Then they broke up a few years ago, and their lead singer assumed the name Passenger for his solo musical career. The lyrics.
I wouldn't be able to tell you any songs, but I have heard of.
Yeah,
sorry.
Quite. The lyrics are trite and lazy. Whatever happened to the genius of Stephen Sondheim or Tim Rice, who could fashion
I think that's long gone, but yeah,
absolute wit from brilliant rhymes, brilliant social observations. I'm afraid Passenger's lyrics are very, very disappointing. The acting is good. Mark Addy plays Harold Fry. Jenna Russell plays his much put upon wife, Maury. And the story explores, and as you'll know from me, I try not to give away spoilers in my reviews. The story does explore a tragedy that's at the core of their marriage, their relationship. And it touches on some difficult subjects. So it kind of gets 3 stars from me for having a heart possibly in the right place. All in all, it struck me as a little bit of a woke fest. And as a musical, frankly, they should have let Sleeping Dogs Lie, let it rest as a book that's been extremely popular by Rachel Joyce. In my opinion, it has not made the journey well from book screen onto stage to musical theatre at that. I'd like to see The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Steptoe one day. That would certainly have me queuing up for a ticket. This one, however, I'm afraid not. Listen, go and see it.
Well, let's put it this way. That's certainly not what I was expecting, but at the same time, it's always useful to know. So thank you.
I'm sure there must be bargains to be had on the ticket discounting websites. Theatre wasn't full the night that I was there, which was a couple of days after the grand press night. With my busy schedule, I can't always make all the grand press nights that I'm invited to. But yeah, as I say, beautifully performed, interesting story, politically and musically disappointing, but great work from Mark Addy, Jenna Russell, and the rest of the cast. Now,
I like Mark Addy, so maybe that's an incentive. But
yeah, for sure. Him, Jenna, they're brilliant. and the joy of what I've seen in all of the theatre that I've seen that I'm talking about has been professionals who are all in differing ways at the top of their game, working bloody hard on stage. But they can't be in charge of the material that they're given to work with. All they can do is make the best of the script and the songs that they're given and the direction that they're given. And yeah, so far, underwhelming.
I think that goes to show how talented some of these performers are, because if you think that the content they're given is rubbish, but yet they can still give a good performance even with rubbish.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Jenna Russell doesn't know how to do a bad performance. She's fabulous. One of these great heroes of musical theatre who's never had her name hugely up in starry lights, above the marquee of the theatre or whatever. But she's terrific, and she's given a relatively minor role. Mark Addy, interestingly, doesn't sing a note. His role is all spoken, which is again sort of questionable for a musical. And some of my critical friends were saying, how the hell can you have a musical where the leading man doesn't sing? So, and that's the list of frustrations. But let me move on. Let me move on to a lovely show that's at the National, only on for a couple more weeks till the 14th of March. Well, I'm not sure lovely is the word. Man and Boy by Terence Rattigan, one of his lesser known plays. It's a beautifully stylized slice of Manhattan in the 1930s. It touches upon a little bit of repressed homosexuality and the pressures around that, and the era that in the 20th century. Rattigan wrote it, I believe, in the 50s. Life was complicated then. It deals with corruption. It deals with corporate shenanigans in boardrooms. As I say, in Manhattan in the 1930s. The design, the style is wonderfully Art Deco, and the most monstrous character at the center of the story is a Romanian business tycoon called Gregor Antonescu, played superbly by Ben Daniels, and his son, with whom there's been a little bit of estrangement, played by Laurie Kynaston.
Leslie Demeser is with you all the way. She said, I saw Man and Boy this week. Brilliant treatment. Ben Daniels was beyond amazing.
Yeah. So this really is great theatre. The setting, it's at the small theatre at the National Theatre. It's at the Dorfman, staged in the round, almost on the green baize of a poker table or a snooker table. Very, very highly stylized. And when the actors are speaking, and believe me, I don't do it justice, they jump on top of tables to emphasize that they're the ones grabbing the moment at that particular point in the dialogue. It's a really entertaining script.
I'm very pleased we don't have to do the midday show like that. I don't feel like Russ and I would sustain tables very long if we had to do that.
I don't think Russ could make it up to stand.
No, I'm not so sure actually at the moment. His back's mind you, I think I've broken out in sympathy. Well, last week. Oh my god, my back as well. Oh
yeah.
Tell me about it.
But you're old. But you're a mere whippersnapper, I thought.
Well, I thought I was until that happened.
Anyway, you can look like you can still get under 16 fares on the tube.
Oh, generosity knows no bounds, but I promise you that's a long distant memory.
And also I have to say, in Man and Boy, there's some cracking supporting work. Malcolm Sinclair in particular as another corporate great of Wall Street, an American businessman who's got his own dodgy secrets to hide. It's fantastic acting, directed by Anthony Lau. I hope I pronounced his surname correctly. As I say, only on for 2 more weeks. If you can get a ticket and you like really interesting, challenging theatre, go. It's beautifully, beautifully stylized. And it's, as I say, I didn't know what to expect about the story. I didn't know it at all. And I found it riveting and really entertaining. So that's, for those people who enjoy good, challenging theatre, go and see it. Excellent. Challenging in a completely different sphere is a play that is on for one more week. It's been extended. It was going to finish tomorrow, but it's been given one more week of life at Stratford East, what used to be called Theatre Royal Stratford East, out by Stratford Tube Station. And the play is called Here There Are Blueberries. Don't know if you've heard about that at all, Phil.
I don't think I have.
Here There Are Blueberries is it's a troubling night of theatre. And it is a play that has been created around a photo album, an album of snapshots, real snapshots that were taken in Auschwitz in the final months before the camp's liberation. But these snapshots were taken by the officers, in particular, one particular SS officer who it's believed took most of them. And this album was discovered in a flat many decades after the camp was liberated and the war had ended. And a clever chap called, and I hope I pronounce his name right, Moises, it's kind of Moses with an I in the middle of it and an E with an accent on top of it, Moises Kaufman and Amanda Greenwich, but it was Moises who conceived this whole thing, have taken these photos.
It's not Moisture, is it, perchance?
It's not moist. There's no H in it. But that's not to say that...
I'm not so sure Moisture has an H in it. But anyway, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, Moisture, whoever it is.
Moises Kaufman created this stage show. It's very clever. Cast of about 8. We meet them initially poring over photographic examination tables with ring lights looking over photos in the Holocaust Museum in the United States, where this album was ultimately donated to. And then through the course of the evening, the pictures are projected very cleverly. This is not a slideshow. It's a far more clever use of technology than that. So we, the audience sitting in the theatre, do see a lot of images. And the title of the play, Here There Are Blueberries, comes from one particular snapshot, which is the young girls who worked in the communications office at Auschwitz, just telex girls operating typewriters, sitting on a fence at the summer lodge at Auschwitz. Unbelievably, there was a summer lodge there that the SS and camp staff could go to if they'd worked well in the camp. I mean, it defies the brain to even think about this. And there's this picture of a dozen or so young women, late teens, early 20s, perched on a fence, laughing and chuckling, eating bowls of blueberries, which were quite a treat. And the slogan of the picture, handwritten, is "Here there are blueberries." If you just think about the enormity of that, of comparing the frivolity, the joyousness of sitting on a picnic on a fence in the summer, eating a bowl of fruit, while there's a death camp a couple of miles away, it does defy comprehension. It's cleverly scripted. The writers in putting the play together did a lot of research, not just with survivors, but also with descendants, grandchildren of some of the SS officers. And one of the most chilling moments, a recollection that's spoken by the grandson of, and excuse me while I look at his name, the chappie was called Dr. Heinz Baumkurter, who was a Nazi doctor in Sachsenhausen and Auschwitz concentration camps, who said to his grandson, and this interview was then recorded by the playwriters and it's then played on stage. And his grandson recalls how his grandfather spoke to him in his very elderly years with a twinkle in his eye. Grandfather reflecting that the time that he spent in the concentration camps was the best years of his life.
Oy.
And I have to say, as I'm saying that to you
Gracious
now,
me.
I'm holding on to my emotions as I just put those words into words. So I have to say, Here There Are Blueberries. For those of us who are relatively well informed about what went on in the Holocaust, it still offers yet more dimension to that terrible chapter of history, and highly recommended. I'll also, in fact, come on, and this isn't so much a review.
Perhaps.
Sorry?
Perhaps not for the faint-hearted, though.
No. All I would say for anyone who's curious or who wants to learn more, when you say not for the faint-hearted, there's nothing gruesome on stage or in the images at all.
No, but
The
possibly
gruesomeness
hard to
is
get
in
one's
there.
head around, though.
Correct. Absolutely. And touching on that, I was invited back to Cabaret a couple of weeks ago. It's been a while since I've been on the show. Russ forgot to include me 2 weeks ago.
Oh, oops.
Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I was back at
It's
Cabaret.
good to see you're
the
not
Kit
bitter
Kat.
about it.
Me? Bitter? Never. Sorry, excuse me while I remove some pins from the effigy of Mr. Kane, slightly just to my left here. I was back at Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club. I don't know if you've seen that show sometime over the last 4 or 5 years it's been on.
I confess I have not, no.
Fair enough. You may or may not be familiar with Cabaret, the musical.
Familiar with it, but no, I just haven't got around to seeing this production.
Okay, understood. No worries. And I saw it when it opened 4.5 years ago. Eddie Redmayne and Jessie Buckley in the starring roles. For the life of me, I cannot remember who's taken over it. They've been very clever. The producers are very smart. They rotate the 2 leading roles every 6 months or so, or 3 months. It's a very smart move. It keeps the show fresh, and I have to say, seeing it 4.5 years on, it is as brilliant as it was. You may know in Cabaret there is a song called "Tomorrow Belongs to Me." Or you may not know there's a song called "Tomorrow Belongs to Me." It's a Nazi anthem written by Kanja and Ebb, who wrote the show, because they wrote all the songs in the show, including, Cabaret and Money, Money, Money. They wrote all the songs. "Tomorrow Belongs to Me" is this Nazi anthem, which I have to say is so convincing. I had to Google that they had written it rather than having unearthed it and included it in the show as some part of real authentic ideology from the time. I saw the show 4.5 years ago. It's always a very moving part of the show, because the nature of this song is it brings together all the ordinary citizens of Berlin who are in the play, and they join increasingly as the song gathers momentum. They join in, and it represents the pervasive spread of the Nazis' anti-Semitism. Cabaret is set 1929, early 1930s, so Hitler had yet to come to power, but the Nazi regime and the Nazi ideology was spreading. And I have to say, 4.5 years ago, I was impressed and moved at this song. This time around, 2 weeks ago, I absolutely broke down in tears.
Wow.
Because this manifestation of anti-Semitism on stage and what that particular song represented was, and meanwhile, they finish the song and everyone's hurtling out, because it's the Act 1 closer, and everyone hurtles out for their champagne and their cocktails and their gin and tonics. I was destroyed, I have to say. Brilliant. I still recommend the show. It is brilliant. It is Kanja and Ebb at their best. The current cast are magnificent. It's fantastic theatre. Let me up the mood a little bit. And yes, my last 2 shows to talk about have got nothing whatsoever to do with the Holocaust. Bird Grove, new piece of writing at Hampstead Theatre, which stars Owen Teale, him of Game of Thrones, and Elizabeth Dulou, her of Star Wars fame. I have to say, I'm not aficionados of both franchises. And Elizabeth Dulou plays Mary Ann Evans in the 19th century. Who is Mary Ann Evans, I hear you ask? That name doesn't mean anything to me. Well, Mary Ann Evans was the young woman who was to change her name for writing purposes to George Eliot, and become one of the leading forces of English literature of her time. And the show really is a fabulous study about the dynamics between traditional father, who finds it difficult, played by Owen Teale, who finds it very challenging to cope with his daughter's independent thinking. Not so much her intellect, he respects and admires her intellect, but the fact that she wants to turn her back on church and tradition and carve her own life in the literary world is something that he finds extremely challenging. It's very, very well researched. The script is almost perfect. Little bits, the script creaks a bit. The acting, again, magnificent. It was a shame. I felt the theatre deserved to be full. The theatre was not full for it. This was Hampstead Theatre up by Swiss Cottage Tube Station. The play is on until March the 21st. It's called Bird Grove. And
Bird Grove, yes.
Bird Grove, which is the name of the house
Okay.
where Mary Ann and her mother had died some years previously. It's where they lived. The house and what happens to the house is wrapped up as part of the story. And it's one of these beautiful creations that's historical and reflects real history with an imagined script. So, as I say, it's gorgeous theatre, and it taught me a lot about George Eliot, about whom I knew very little beforehand, and I would recommend it highly. And finally, the final show that I'll talk about is Dracula, starring Cynthia Erivo, at the Noel Coward Theatre, which is on until the end of May. She has really, Cynthia Erivo, of course, massive star now following the Wicked movies. Last seen on stage in London.
I couldn't think where I knew the name from, but yes, of course.
Last seen on stage in London 10, 11 years ago in a rather gorgeous production of The Colour Purple at the Minier Chocolate Factory. So gorgeous that it took her to Broadway, same production. And as one of my critics observed at the time, when she went to Broadway, he commented that she ain't coming back. And broadly speaking, he was spot on, because she's gone on to make a number of movies. She's already won an Emmy. She's won a Grammy. She's won a Tony. She's only 39. She's yet to win the Oscar, an Oscar. Cynthia Erivo, an English girl from South London of Nigerian heritage. RADA had the wisdom a few years ago to appoint her as a vice president. And good Lord, when you see her on stage in Dracula, you can see why. She plays
basically what we were establishing about Cynthia Erivo is that she hasn't achieved very much in her 39 years.
Not a lot. Not a lot. Not compared to you or I. Absolutely.
Well, of course. Absolutely.
Absolutely. She plays all the characters in this play. And there are moments of technical wizardry. So she's on stage, and there are times when she has 1, 2, sometimes 3 camera people around her. There's a big screen that hangs above the stage, and there are moments when she enacts dialogue between her and herself in some pre-filmed sequences. I have to say the technical timing is genius. It's a very demanding role. She was attracting a little bit of flack over the previews, that people were whinging that they thought she was looking at auto cues and stuff like that to get her through the evening. I don't know. I didn't spot any of that. I just spotted a fabulous young woman taking on this massive story, adapted and directed by Kip Williams. It helps if you're going to go and see it, A, to not be too put off by vampirism, and B, to have a working knowledge of Bram Stoker's classic story, because certainly the end game does get a little bit complicated, and if you're not entirely on top of who's who and what's what, it's a challenge. But her work is brilliant. I think the adaptation is very, very clever. It's a little bit bloody, but it's not rip-roaring gore.
But it is Dracula, so
absolutely, it does what it says on the tin. I would say if you fancy it and you're able to get a ticket, and to be honest, you can afford to get a ticket, because it's it's being priced at a little bit of a premium, and that's the way of the world. I'm not going to make any comment on the pricing. What I will say, though, is, in my opinion, I think it's a fabulous night at the theatre. And I said in my review, Cynthia Erivo drives a stake through the heart of Bram Stoker's novel, and she defines it as her own. It's bloody good.
Marvelous. You can't say much better than that, really.
No, but interestingly, it split the critics. It really has. There's been some particularly bitter reviews expressed by some of the people out there. Personally, I thought she delivered fantastically. She's got Nigerian heritage, as I commented, and her Dracula, when she speaks as Dracula, she doesn't give him a cod Eastern European Romanian accent. She gives him a Nigerian accent, which I thought was a very bold move. She's not culturally appropriating anything.
Sure whether or not I could picture Dracula as Nigerian, but maybe, I suppose.
There you go. Let's have all of our preconceptions challenged. She's certainly more than qualified to assume that voice and that persona. And as I say, it woke me up. Very, very enjoyable. I found myself grinning through most of it. Such was the entertainment value. So that's it. That's my half dozen or so shows for this week.
Thank you. Well, it's always a treat to hear your words of wisdom. So thank you very much indeed, Jonathan Baz. And we have to wish you a very good couple of weeks until we see you again.
Until we meet again. Indeed.
Farewell. There we go. Marvellous stuff from Mr. Jonathan Baz there, our theatre critic extraordinaire, telling us about some, well, really quite fascinating shows, really. And I'm going to be honest, there were one or two things in there that I hadn't contemplated seeing. Now I think I rather might. Well, from one expert of entertainment to another, how completely and utterly delightful to be welcomed. No, I'm the one welcoming. To be joined by, that's the one, by the marvellous Chantal Rickards. Hi, Chantal.
Hello, Phil. How are you?
I'm remarkably chipper, I think, all things considered, given that I didn't have very much sleep last night, thanks to the cat.
Oh.
But never mind, you can't win them all, I suppose. But anyway.
Yeah. Why is your cat in your bedroom? Is your cat in your bedroom?
Well, I only have a one-bedroom flat, and it seems a bit unfair. He's cooped up in the living room. I say cooped up. It's quite a big living room to some degree, but he's cooped up in the living room for most of the day when I'm out and about. So I just give him the free rein at night. But make no mistake, I realise it's to my detriment.
Okay, all right. I say no more.
But certainly to the detriment of my circadian rhythm anyway. But anyway, but Chantal, about everything else, we have to establish how you are feeling this week, because obviously last week you were still a bit under the weather.
Oh my God, I don't think in my entire life have I been as ill as I was a couple of weeks ago. And I'm still just getting over it, but I am 95% better than I was. I rarely get ill. I'm incredibly lucky. I have very, very few illnesses in my life, but I was absolutely laid low by something that was COVID-esque or flu-esque, or I've no idea, but it was miserable for about 12 days.
Wow.
Gracious me. But it is going around. Whatever it is going around. I keep hearing of other people who've got the same thing and feeling flattened by it. But I have bounced back.
And it's very nice to see you bounce back as well, that's for sure.
Oh, bless you, bless you, bless you. Have you had a good week?
It's been okay, thank you. I think that this time of year goes so ridiculously quickly. I'm not entirely sure I even remember what I've been up to the last week. Because I was saying this at the start of the show as well. I find it bonkers. Tomorrow is the last day of February already. And so then it means, meteorologically speaking, on Sunday, it should be the first day of spring.
No. March the 1st is not the first day of spring. The spring equinox is at the end of March, is it not?
Well, that's when we put the clocks back. But in terms of, if you break it down by the months, isn't it typically that you've got...
Absolutely not. We've done 2 months. 2 months is the 6th of the year. It is not a quarter of the year.
Now I'm very confused. But anyway, whatever. I mean, whatever it is, I still can't believe it's the beginning of March, so it's fine.
It's not
Any
spring
old
yet.
way.
We'll have this conversation in 4 weeks, and then we can start talking about spring.
Oh, just give me a little bit of a chance to cling on to optimism, will you? Come on.
Well, I'm heading to the sunshine next week, so I'll get some and bring it back.
Oh, no wonder you're so sure about it. Where are you headed to?
Well, strangely, to somewhere I've never been. Well, I said, well, it's not particularly strange, but strange to me because I lived abroad for 5 years. I lived in America for 5 years. But one of the places I didn't go to was Texas. So I'm going out to do a week's work in Texas and flying to Austin, which is seemingly the music.
Kimmy Lashmar backs you up as well. March 21st to the first day of spring. Whatever, fine.
Thank you, Kimmy. Thank you,
Yeah,
Kimmy.
yeah.
So yes, Austin apparently is the live music capital of America. It's not a massively
Is
big
it really? I would have thought it was somewhere more like Philadelphia or something like that.
No, it's definitely it's described as Austin. Austin is a sort of it's, as they would say, a blue town in a red state, which may be interesting, but I think it's a sort of an enclave of Democrats inside an enormity of Republicans, because that is what Texas is really known for, being a big Republican state in America. So that'll be interesting to see what everybody's talking about in terms of the politics over there. Sort of part of the Bible Belt, it's big on religion out there too, and line dancing and cowboy boots and Stetsons. So if I come back and I look,
will you be planning to do a little bit of line dancing whilst you're over there?
Well, I don't know. Apparently my colleagues out there are ready to take me both to church and to line dancing classes. So we'll see what happens.
Don't get the two confused, but other than that, that'd be marvelous.
Yeah, I think I'm probably not going to go to either, but there we are. We'll see. I might go to a live music bar or two just to hang out a bit and feel the vibes.
Sounds perfection. Well, enjoy one way or another.
Thank you. And I have a question for you, because this is all I have talked about all week, but only with people I know as opposed to on the airwaves and in broadcasting land. But clearly you've been in broadcasting land since last Sunday night. And I want to, I'm going to mention the B word, because I'd like your opinion on the BAFTAs.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, it's a bit okay. So this is a bit tricky because I know where you're going with this. Obviously, it's surrounding the Tourette's debacle, and the BBC is supposed to be absolutely live, right? They're not supposed to tamper in any way, shape, or form. This is why it was so scandalous with what they did with Donald Trump. They might not like his politics, but BBC is supposed to be absolutely live when something is live, and they should not start fiddling with bits and pieces.
Okay.
And if they're going to broadcast the ceremony live, if they're going to highlight Tourette's syndrome, then you kind of need to take it warts and all.
So it wasn't live. Just let me stop you there before we go down the wrong rabbit hole.
No. Sorry, I know that BAFTAs wasn't live, but what I mean is that sort of it's supposed to. They're not supposed to. How can I put it? BAFTAs itself was obviously done as live. It wasn't broadcast live, but it wasn't as if they were sort of saying, "Oh, right, go again. Let's do this award from the top" or something like that. They just do the ceremony in one go, right?
Well, yes, but they do tell you that they've all, I mean, in the show, they say, and here were awards that we've already handed out. So they don't completely deceive you. So they don't broadcast it as if it were 2 hours earlier. They don't fake that, because, they do say, well, we've already, here are 7 awards we've already given out, but those are the boring ones. So they sort of own up to the fact that they have conflated the best bits into the bit that you're watching.
Okay, but I mean, on the front of the Tourette's debacle,
yes,
I understand why people are twitchy about it, because obviously the word that was used is far from pleasant. But at the same time, surely the whole point is that this chap does have Tourette's, and that maybe there's an opportunity to highlight the actual condition itself. Because let's just say that in any other scenario where perhaps someone who has Tourette's has used that word, and by the way, if you're not familiar with the word in question here, it's the M word we're referring to, but
Well, there were
let's just
plenty of words, but the one that really upset everybody was the racial slur. He did use the F word, a lot, and had done before he got as far as the N word. Apparently, when he gets stressed, it starts with sort of, you're a twit, and it ends up with something so extreme because as his stress levels rise, the profanity gets worse. I mean, it's such a bonkers disease. But anyway, I'm just interested in your take on it as a broadcaster and where you think it fell down or where you think bits of it were okay, because clearly it has raised people's hackles like you wouldn't believe over the last 5 days.
Well, I think it boils down to two things. What matters more, highlighting Tourette syndrome or members of the African Caribbean community getting upset, is really what it boils down to. And I understand why anyone who hears that word in this day and age would be upset hearing it, especially on the national broadcaster. I have to be honest, I think the BBC has done far worse than allow that word to be used in recent months and years, but that's just my personal opinion. But if they want to use the opportunity to let people understand what Tourette's is and how it affects someone, then you have to do it warts and all. And if you are not that fussed by highlighting it and want to maintain Ofcom law, then you obviously should have edited it out. And it really is, I think it's the choice of the two. And clearly, for whatever reason, they thought they were being all woke and sensible by highlighting Tourette's, and clearly in the process have managed to upset a load of people.
No,
but I can't.
In fact, they have fallen on their sword and said that those words should not have left the Royal Festival Hall. They had warned people in the audience that there was going to be a whole load of effing and blinding, and indeed there was. But the transmission, which went out 2 hours later, was not bleeped. And personally, I think that was a massive screw up. Massive. Shouldn't have happened.
It's very strange that it wasn't. Let's put that.
And they left it on the iPlayer for 15 hours with those expletives in. Now, on the other side, and there is a whole cock-up theory going on, and I think there are an awful lot of people who need to look deep in their soul and work out whether they had put belts and braces in place beforehand, in terms of saying to the bloke, do you want to sit in the auditorium? How are you going to feel if your expletives get very bad? Do you want us to protect you from yourself? All sorts of things, because apparently the chap, John, I think he's called John Harrison, is absolutely mortified. But when I went to the screening of I Swear, which is a brilliant film and everybody's got to see, just getting back to what I'm supposed to be talking about today, it really is worth it. It's a true story about this guy who's got Tourette's, but has now become a campaigner, has been a campaigner for understanding of the illness for the last 20 years or so. And even at the event where he was given an MBE by the Queen, he shouted out F-O the minute she walked into the room. So clearly everybody knew that there was going to be trouble at Mill on the day, because that's what happens. He gets stressed and out it comes. So I think possibly there wasn't quite enough preparation. And then I think latterly there wasn't enough sorting it out behind the scenes and getting out the big rubber and making sure that it didn't go to air to a wider audience that wasn't even a post-watershed audience that may have found it very offensive. The other problem is with the racial slur is that word, the N word in this country is let's say it's level 9 in this country, or level 10. It is literally off the scale in America. So if you use that word to an American who has an African-American history, it is so impossibly insulting. It is absolutely the worst thing that you can do. So I can see why the Americans were as energized about it as they were. I mean, the whole thing is a mess, frankly, but I was just sort of interested to see, what you thought of it. Are we all just chasing each other's tails and this is all a whole bunch of silliness? And, Russ,
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. Yes, if I'm honest, because no, but I tell you why, is because if we were going to use the equivalent, and I dare say there are going to be people out there who would say that, and look, I'm sorry, I use the word because it's aimed at my community, and frankly, I don't find it offensive. So when people say that the word yid is offensive, I have never, ever seen that. I've never seen it as offensive. I couldn't care less about it if I try. It just doesn't bother me at all.
I didn't know that.
And
I've always avoided saying it because I thought it may be offensive. I've
never seen it as offensive. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't actually know many Jewish people who have found it offensive until we were told it's offensive, if that makes sense. So and I may be on my own there. I suppose I've never really spoken to many people about it, but it just doesn't even enter the thought. And I think it's born out of knowing that there are so many worse things out there facing the Jewish community than someone using hurty words, that most people don't care about it. And so I suppose this is where I'm slightly baffled, is that at the end of the day, it is a word. Now, it might not be a very nice word to someone.
Not a stick or a stone, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. It might not be a very nice word. It might stir up all sorts of terrible emotions for some people as they sort of hark back to tales of their ancestors going through the most horrendous things in history. I understand all of that. But the point is that in this day and age, if what we've got to be hung up about is a word, then I think we're in a very lucky position, where I would say that there are those around the world who face far worse than someone saying something that they find a bit offensive to them. So look, if I'm brutally honest, it's not my place to tell someone how they should feel about a word, but I know that I think an awful lot of it is blown up out of all proportion, if I'm honest.
Okay. All right. Well, no, that's good to know. I guess I like your opinion on things. And I just, because I'm so sort of stuck in down at the grassroots level of this argument, having worked for both BAFTA and the BBC, of course, and run big live award shows in America that were going out live where anything may have happened in that 1 hour. Oh, not 1 hour, 2-3 hours.
I think that what we can agree on, though, this could have been very easily avoided.
Probably.
Well, if they would have bleeped it, it could have been very easily avoided.
I mean, I think, yes, but in the room, I think things were always going to happen if that chap, who was one of the executive producers of the film, it was also obviously his story, and he had absolutely every right to be there. And he was not sitting with the main team at the front. He was 40 rows back. But they could have mitigated it better. They maybe could have sat down and talked to him about, well, would he like to be in a, God knows, a soundproof booth thing, something to the side of the stage? I've no idea.
Leslie Demisa says, oh my goodness, the BAFTAs, apart from the fact that the show was awful, unfunny, boring, lacked pace and finesse, Alan Cummings was not the right compare for this show. The Tourette's episode was just that, Tourette's. It is uncontrollable. It's an illness. The film in question is about living and coping with Tourette's. Chantal correctly said Tourette's is exacerbated by stress. The word was not allowed to be used. It was involuntary.
Yeah, it was. And he doesn't believe that. And he said over and over and over again that he does not have a racist vibe in his body. But anyway, I mean, it's a story of our time that you and I are even having 5 minutes chat about it.
I know.
Today. I didn't really want to bore people with it, but I am really interested in people's feedback as to whether we've all just gone a bit crazy, and whether we should just sort of cope and move on.
I think that would be the most sensible thing, given the threat that the world is facing at the moment from various countries. And believe me, they'll do a heck of a lot worse than use hurty words any odd way.
Anyway, the film is fab, and if you haven't seen it, and whenever it comes onto telly, or if it comes out again at the cinema, go and see it, because actually it's just a delightful movie. I think I reviewed it 4 or 5 months ago when I saw it. I can't quite remember, and I think I may have taken Russ to it actually. Anyway, but it's definitely worth watching.
He'd have liked that. He's got enough of a potty mouth, so
It was quite something. It was quite something. Anyway,
now, I have big news for you, Chantal.
Oh, good. Tell me.
I'm back on Netflix. Do you remember I said I'd cancelled all subscriptions?
Yes.
I have succumbed.
It's very difficult to cancel them all. I'm still off Disney because I'm still cross with Disney.
No, I'm not bothering with Disney.
And who knows, I may come off Paramount. Now that Paramount have lost the fight to buy up Warner's. Netflix has pulled out of the running, so it will now go to Paramount. We'll have to see how that goes, because it might suddenly all become a bit political and of course, we don't want our broadcasters to be very political, not really. I mean, I think we like the old-fashioned way of everybody getting a fair shout.
Well, here's a cracker's idea. How about a bit of escapism? So maybe we get away from this nonsense of politics in every single day life.
So I'm going to tell you about something that is absolutely not escapism, because it takes us straight back to where we are in the world.
Oh.
And it's a rather interesting story that I knew very little about. But it's a drama on ITV. It's a 4-parter called The Lady.
My parents were absolutely crowing about this the other day. They loved it.
Were they? Because I didn't really know much about it at all. So very briefly.
Oh, I had no idea. No, I didn't. I mean, as if the how can I put it? As if Fergie and co haven't been caught up in enough scandal recently.
Well, exactly. So the producers must be absolutely thrilled that the timing happened to coincide.
Oh, yes, of course.
Fergie is probably at her lowest ebb. But this is a story of a woman called Jane Andrews, who was her dresser. I mean, literally somebody who would help her with her clothes, prepare everything for her, put everything out for her. She was a young lass from Cleethorpes. She was, very oop north, Ecky Thump, Cleethorpes girl, and came down and joined one of the royal households, who 10 years later, or more than 10 years later, I mean, she worked for Fergie for 10 years, I think, 9 or 10 years, ended up murdering her boyfriend, all of which was completely new to me. I'd sort of very vaguely heard that there was something about somebody who'd worked for the Duchess, but I didn't really know an awful lot about it. And clearly this story is, I mean, it's a good crime story besides anything else. And the fact that it's got royal connections and it's got Andy Harris behind it, who's done The Crown, so it's a good production. And, it's got great people in, like Philip Glenister, who plays the sort of copper, who's trying to uncover the murder mystery. It is a slice of British life, and indeed that it has impacted on the royal family in a different way. But it's an extraordinary story. It's sort of very bingeable. It's quite compulsive watching, that you get into it quite quickly. I'm not crazy about the way it's been edited, because lots of it's done in flashback, and eventually I get slightly overwrought with flashbacks, because I don't quite see why you have to do everything in flashback. But they obviously thought, right, let's start with the murder as opposed to starting with a girl from Cleethorpes and then working through the next 15 years.
It's really interesting you say that about flashbacks, actually, because I've often thought that it must be so much harder to put that kind of production together, to do it all flashbacks. And I'm not even sure it adds anything.
No, well, it's supposed, I mean, the reason that they do it is to add extra tension, dramatic tension, so that, if you just thought this is a story about a girl who dresses up Fergie as a dress-up dolly for 10 years, and you don't get to the murder until the beginning of episode 3, you probably won't get there. So you can see why people would do it, because they're just drawing you in. And they want to counterbalance, lots of silly royal fluffy stuff with some gruesome detective work. And it works, and it often works. In many programs you see it happening all the time, but it's fine here. But I think it's slightly overdone. I just began to feel a little bit irritated with the chopping and changing all the time. Anyway, it's called The Lady. It's a 4-parter. It's on ITV, and it's a bit water cooler, as your mum and dad have said. Yeah, what did they say about it?
Oh, I believe that when I phoned, it was inconvenient to even speak to them, because they were in the middle of watching The Lady. So I sort of had to make the call a bit quicker than I normally would do. So it must have been very gripping.
Okay, right. Interesting. There are an awful lot of dramas out there at the moment, and I don't have any documentaries this week to talk about, but because I haven't found anything great in the last couple of weeks. But a lot of the dramas that are out there are female-led crime dramas. There is an absolute glut of them at the moment. So if you're looking for, traditional hunky bloke, led taut thriller type thing. Well, it's all going to be done by the girls at the moment. So the latest of those is something on Apple, and I know that you may not have signed back up with Apple, but Apple has got a 6-parter called Vanished, which actually isn't bad. It's not brilliant. It's quite soapy, but it does drag you in. It's a sort of Hitchcockian girl and a guy on a train. They are infrequent lovers because they work in different parts of the world, but they meet in fabulous places every few months. And he's a charity worker and she works in archaeology. It's all slightly, unlikely. He is Sam Claflin.
I was going to say that old cliche.
Yeah, that old cliche. Sam Claflin, British actor, who I'm sure you would recognise even if you don't know his name terribly well, and an American girl called Kaylee Cuoco, who was new to me. Anyway, they're on a train. They're going to Arles for a weekend to stay in a fabulous hotel, and I don't know what they intended to do there. There's a beautiful cathedral, if nothing else. And he disappears off the train. And so the ripping yarn starts from there. And she becomes part detective, part hysterical woman, and tries to unravel this knotty little story. And everything, of course, is not quite as it seems.
So what was his name? Sorry, you said Sam who, sorry?
Sam Claflin, Claflin. You definitely recognise him.
I don't know if I do, but if you say so.
He did a film called Me and You with Emilia Clarke a few years ago.
Me Before You, yes.
Me Before You, not that. Not Me and You. Me Before You, which I dubbed Me Before Euthanasia, because I took away the end of the film 6-7 years after it was made, which was a bit weird. But he has been in a lot of quite a few British TV dramas as well as film dramas. Anyway,
Mark has messaged, by the way, said went to see Elvis in concert at the BFI IMAX last night. Highly recommended.
Right. Okay. It is on at the cinema right now. I haven't even read any reviews of it, but it's the king. I mean, it's probably pretty good. So, and if
Julie
it's
has also messaged, by the way, I missed this one before. She says that I'm insanely jealous, Chantal. Austin is fab. It's pretty warm there right now.
So I've heard. I looked at the weather forecast this morning. I think it's about 30 degrees.
Oh.
So it's going to be too hot for my cowboy.
I won't make a noise, I promise.
Anyway, so that was called Vanished, and it's on Apple. Then there's another series on ITV, but this isn't brilliant. But if you're a fan of Sean Evans, who most people will remember was Endeavour, in the Morse series, he was the sort of the younger Morse, and that was how he came to our screens and has carried on actually a very good career since then. Mostly on ITV, it has to be said. He plays the part of a copper. He's got a grumpy wife, Romola Garai, who is a doctor. There is a story about Iranians and secret spies, and that is supposed to be primary, but it ends up not being quite well established enough in the program. You get slightly too much of the grumpiness at home, but if you're a fan of his,
tell me about it.
He is a bloody good actor. Yeah. Then it's one for you. It's only a 4-parter. And it's definitely, telly to do the ironing by, as opposed to, I'm going to sit down on the sofa and watch this and nothing else. So,
well, I have good news. I've got some ironing to do this weekend, so I may just take you up on that. So
well, in that case, have it on in the background, and it's fine for have it on in the background type of telly, I would say.
Okay, well, that's not terrible. I think that we're just about out of time there, wouldn't you know?
Well, there we go.
Yeah, so well, thank you very much indeed as ever for your insight and your wisdom. It's always good to catch up, Chantal. I'm delighted that you're feeling a bit perkier than you have done the last couple of weeks, because it wasn't the same without you, let's be honest. So
bless you.
And not to mention, I dare say that Russ was probably fuming at the prospect of having to tolerate me for now. So. But anyway, but all the same. And by the way, I should have said that Russ, as you know, he's been off this week. So if you were wondering, of course, he was somewhat busy this week, officiating at all sorts of ceremonies, but I have been reliably informed he will be back with you on Monday. So I dare say that's one to look forward to. And if I am still employed, I'll be back next Friday, I suppose, as well, as will you, Chantal. So there you go.
Wonderful. Look forward to it.
Have to leave you to it and say thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Bye all.
Bye-bye.